Earl, can I give you this? I've seen that before.
I was gonna say I have a table over here if that's easier.
This means that this, you're signing this, you're agreeing that it's a voluntary statement.
I just want to say one blurb at the beginning about
Please
voluntary, just so I make sure, just for our portion.
Yep.
Yeah, he can leave at any time. That's all I'm gonna say. Is it's a volunteer statement. He can leave at any time.
We've agreed to give a statement to the BCA about the
Okay.
conduct. We've not agreed to give a statement to the FBI that's investigating the civil rights.
All right. And I'm not going to interject. I appreciate being here. So anytime that you want to say something, just say it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know.
All right, thank you.
So I shouldn't ask him any. I mean, you're going to object if I ask him questions. I just want to look at it. Okay.
We're okay though?
Yep, that's good.
Can you put that on into the recording?
Yeah, we're gonna, so,
Just put it.
Why is this room? Why are we in this room?
Because typically we do it at the agency, and so we don't have a ton of.
we're not set up,
6 foot away from you.
we're not set up for it.
Just kidding.
We're,
Go ahead.
so, okay, so let's just, we're gonna try to run this like we typically run these, right? I'm just gonna identify everybody in the room here for the record, okay? So today's date is May 31st, 2020. Time is 13:15 hours. This is Special Agent Brent Peterson with the BCA. Our case number is 2020-338. Also present is Special Agent Michelle Frasconi for the BCA, Special Agent Kevin Kane with the FBI, Attorney Earl Gray, and Attorney Kevin Gray, and law clerk. Thank you. Law clerk Kevin Gray. And then it's Thomas Lane, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I just get Thomas, do you go by Thomas or Tom, or what would you prefer? Mr.
Tom,
Lane?
usually what I go by, but
Okay.
Mr. Lane or whatever.
What's your middle name, Thomas?
Kiernan, K-I-E-R-N-A-N,
All right. And then Lane is L-A-N-E?
L-A-N-E,
All right, thank you. And what's the birthday for you, sir?
March 8th, 1983.
All right. Is there an address we could get for you?
Do you need it?
I'd rather not give an address right
I
now.
can't make you do anything. I'm just gonna ask. If you don't want to give it, that's
He
fine.
lives in Ramsey County?
Yeah.
Ramsey County?
How about a telephone number?
We don't want to give that out.
Sounds good. All right. So before we started here, I presented you, your attorney, with what's called the criminal investigation warning form. You had an opportunity to go over that and with your attorney. So just so it's clear, you're here voluntarily. You are not under arrest. You're not going to be arrested. We are here to take a voluntary statement from you. Is that accurate? Is that your understanding of why you're here? Okay. And are you good talking to us about what happened that day?
Yes.
Okay. It's kind of also been stated that any questioning from the FBI you will not be answering questions from them. Is that
That's correct.
clear?
Yes.
Okay. Understood.
It's a different investigation in our belief than the investigation you're conducting. So, did you want to put something on the record?
No,
Go ahead.
No, you handled it appropriately. I was just wondering if you're open to the possibility after this of sitting down and having a completely separate interview with.
No,
possibly
not
the
unless we know
Justice.
the questions ahead of time.
Okay, I'm sure that can be worked out between you and Mr. Pauls.
Yes.
Okay.
Jeff and I know each other.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's just start then with kind of how we do this. We just want to learn a little bit about your background to begin. Just, I guess, can you just tell us what your educational experience is post high school? You have a college degree?
I do. I went to Century Community College for a couple of years, multiple years actually. I ended up getting a associate's degree from there. Then I transferred to the University of Minnesota, where I got a Bachelor of Science degree in Sociology of Law, Criminology, and Deviance, with an emphasis in policy analysis.
Okay. And what year did you get your degree from the U?
I believe it was 2016.
Okay, 2016. When did you, let me ask, do you have any military
No.
experience, a veteran or anything like that? Okay. How long total were you in law enforcement?
As in the process or working, what is?
From start to finish, like when did you have any prior experience
No.
to Minneapolis?
No.
Yes. Okay. So Minneapolis Police Department was your sole agency that
Yes.
you worked for. When did you start?
I was hired February, the end of February in 2018
2018.
or 2019.
So you hired as like a cadet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what can you just explain that cadet process to us?
I went for 5 weeks of theory training at Century College. From there, I went to Hennepin County Technical College, HTC, for the skills portion of the training to get post-licensed. That was about 5 months. And then from there, I went to the Minneapolis Police Academy, and that was about 4 months.
4 months. Okay. And so when you're a cadet, are you a sworn licensed peace officer? at that
No,
time?
you're not sworn until you graduate from the academy.
Okay. Can you tell us about the academy, a little more about the academy experience? You said it's 4 months. What does that encompass in those 4 months?
Physical training, hands-on training, defensive tactics training, weapons training, educational policy, statutes and stuff like that, geography, departmental
Mhm.
knowledge.
So when you're done with the police academy, what happens?
You start the field training process.
Okay.
FTO, and that's approximately 4 months, 4.5.
What is that? What does the FTO process kind of mean? Like, what do you do in the FTO process?
FTO process, you ride with the training officer. The training officer goes to calls with you, and you work through the calls together typically as a squad.
So when you first start on FTO, are you taking calls and you're being evaluated, or is it
actually,
kind of a graduated
There was an
progression?
orientation period, I forgot, that was immediately after the academy, where you spent like a week in dispatch, or a couple days in dispatch, a couple days with investigations, and then 3 weeks of orientation, which was just you were riding with an officer, and then they were just kind of showing you how stuff works. You weren't really expected to do a whole lot of hands-on or policing stuff like that.
Are you in uniform and all
You're
that?
still in uniform, and you're fully, everything. You're
Carry a
sworn.
firearm, all that.
It's just more for kind of understanding the process and getting used to the radio and the computers, and just turning the radio on and off and locking the doors.
So are you assigned the same field training officer for the entire process, or do you?
I had, for my orientation period, I kind of had a few different people that I would ride with. But then for once you start the actual FTO process, I had one officer the first month, a different officer the second month, and then for the final 2 months, I had one officer.
Okay.
So I had 3 field training officers over the course.
So that first month, what area of the city were you working?
Downtown.
Downtown. What hours or what shift?
That was power shift.
What?
So 4 or 8 p.m. to, I don't know, what was it? Power shift gets done at 4 a.m., 6 to 4.
Okay. So downtown command for that first month of your field training, and then the second month you go to a different precinct, or?
I went, I mean, everyone's schedule and where they went was different, but I went to 3rd precinct for that second month.
Okay. What shift were you working that second month?
I was working dog watch.
Dog watch.
8 to 6 a.m.
All right. And then the final 2 months
was on big watch.
in the 3rd precinct.
Yep.
Understood. And then at the end of your FTO training, is there like an evaluation period?
A 10-day period, yeah.
What is that?
You do 10 shifts as an able squad, where your FTO basically just rides on and you can't ask them any questions. They don't do anything. They're there as like backup for you. You handle all the calls. You work the radio, the computer, you drive, you do everything.
Okay. Is your FTO in a uniform?
Yep.
For that 10 days?
Mhm.
Okay. But you can't use them as a resource unless it's something, an emergency or something.
They're there only for safety, and
Okay.
basically you're supposed to think of it like you're riding alone.
So did you successfully complete the field training process at the Minneapolis?
Yes.
When did you finish your 10-day evaluation? Do you have
It was the Wednesday before
This incident we're going to
Yeah.
talk about?
Mhm.
Okay, so in May, mid-May here.
I'm not sure the exact.
Yeah. Okay. So then you finished the 10-day.
Was it that Wednesday? Yeah. Yeah.
Memorial Day is Monday.
Yeah, it was the Wednesday.
The Wednesday prior to, okay, great. So you've been signed off, you're good to go on solo patrol at that point.
Yep.
Can you just describe for us, when you're on patrol, what your uniform looks like? Just kind of start from head to toe, describe it.
You wear your vest I would wear it underneath my shirt. You got your blue shirts, your work pants, work boots, your belt, your duty belt, badge, nameplate, notepad.
Okay.
You know, your duty belt has all your everything on
What's on your duty belt?
it. You have mace, taser, handcuffs, radio, 2 sets of handcuffs, your service weapon, key. I had my squad key on there.
What kind of handgun are you issued?
Cpr 320 is the one that we had 3 options. That's the one.
Is that a 9mm? Okay. In that uniform, clearly identifiable as a police officer?
Yep.
Okay.
You got patches on each shoulder.
As far as your training in the academy, I guess, are there some specific topics that are covered in training? I mean, obviously there's firearms and there's use of force, but do you take courses in you have to go through like crisis intervention or anything like that?
Yeah, I believe there's courses in that. I don't know about crisis intervention, that term specifically, but we had scenarios with people emotionally disturbed people.
Okay. And like de-escalation and things like that. Techniques.
Yep.
Okay. Are you issued a body-worn camera?
Yep. Oh yeah, body cam.
Where do you usually keep that on your person?
Right in the front center on my button line.
Okay. And kind of what's the understanding about the body-worn camera and when it's supposed to be activated, deactivated? You don't have to quote for me like the policy, but just generally your understanding of when you're supposed to.
2 blocks before you arrive to a call, and then deactivation, I guess, varies.
Okay. Do you know if your body-worn camera was activated on the date that we're here talking
It
about?
was.
Have you had an opportunity to see that video?
I have.
Okay. When did you see that video?
I watched it after the incident, and then I just recently watched it here.
So on the date of the incident, or maybe it was the morning after you watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you when you viewed that?
In the squad car.
In the squad car. Okay. And then you just watched it again today. How many times today did you watch it?
Just once.
Just once. And who was present with you?
These guys. And one of the other guy was.
Okay. So Mr. Gray and then Scott Mueller with the BCA. Okay. All right. Have you seen any other officers?
No.
The squad car you were in that day, did that have a recording device in it?
It has an MVR, yeah,
Okay.
which records the front and the back seat.
Do you know if that was activated?
That was not activated.
Okay.
Typically,
How does that work? How does the MVR or the
MVR
ICC
is
work?
anytime the lights and sirens are activated, it kicks on, and you can also press a button to turn it on. If you
Okay.
put someone in the back.
Okay, understood. What did the squad car look like that you were in that day?
It's fully marked. Squad 320,
Squad 320. Light bar on top?
fully marked. Yep.
Okay.
White and black, black and white.
No question that's a Minneapolis Police Department vehicle.
No.
Okay. All right. So you haven't been on very long. So the use of force training and firearms training, that was all done at the academy?
That's right.
Okay.
I might add,
Please.
Chauvin was one of their trainers.
In what way?
He was a field training officer.
Was he your field training
He
officer?
was not.
Okay. Was he a trainer at the academy as well?
No.
Like, do you have a topic that he trained?
No.
Okay.
Well, you had contact with him before the state, correct?
'd, you want me to get into that?
Yes.
Okay, so He was one of the other training officers in the precinct that I worked in. He trained another officer that was in training as well. And I would, as I said, with the 10-day process, when you're doing that, you're an able squad. You can't ask your FTO, but you can ask other officers on scene, or you can call other officers and ask them questions on best practices for handling a call, making sure you're not forgetting anything. So I had interaction with Chauvin before to the incident, and he gave me guidance on how to handle certain calls.
So you kind of use, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you used him as a resource during your 10-day evaluation.
Yeah, there was a few calls where I was with another training officer, and he had given me advice on how to best handle a call and best handle a situation.
Was he the only person that you?
There was other officers, I had phone numbers that I called other officers, and I didn't necessarily have Chauvin's number, but he was someone that I talked to for advice on calls. Okay. During my 10-day period and prior.
Did you work with him though pretty regularly during that time in the 3rd precinct?
Yeah, I wouldn't say like regularly, because depends on the day. Sometimes you'll see a lot of officers on a call, and sometimes you won't see someone, and depends on what kind of calls you go to. But I would have interaction with him and would see him on calls.
Okay.
Well, he was your partner's field training officer, right?
He was King's training
Officer King?
Yep.
Understood. Okay. How about outside of work? No. You and Officer Chauvin socialized or anything? Okay. So your experience with him was strictly kind of professionally? Yeah. Sounds like. Okay. Understood. Well, thank you for that. We may talk about that a little bit more here too. What we're largely interested in now is kind of hearing what happened.
Okay.
This happened on Monday the 25th. That was Memorial Day. I guess just tell us in your own words, with as much detail as possible, what happened from your perspective.
Okay. We were dispatched to a forgery in progress report at the Cup Foods. I believe in the call notes it said that the suspect was still on scene in a Mercedes. And they might have given a color, I'm not sure. We drove to the call. We didn't activate our lights and sirens just because I believe we were relatively close. And we got there and entered the building, entered Cup Foods, the business. There was a staff member there that said, they're still here. He goes, he was holding a bill, and he goes, they gave me this. It's a fake 20. He pointed across the street, and they're like, he's in the car over there. Go get him before he drives off. So I said, and he started walking out, and I was like, just head back in. We'll take care of it. Me and King walked across the street. There was a vehicle I could see that was occupied 3 times. It was a blue Mercedes. There was Mr. Floyd was in the front seat, and then there was a male in the driver's seat. There was a male in the front passenger seat, and then I didn't know who it was, but it turned out it was a female in the back passenger seat. As I was walking across the street to get to the vehicle, I could see the front seat passenger look back and see us, and I believe the driver as well looked back. And they both started kind of digging underneath the seat. Looked like they were reaching for something. And I said that to King. I said they're moving around quite a bit as I was coming across the street. I walked up to the driver's side of the vehicle. I knocked on the glass, and the driver was sitting with his hand down below the seat, kind of leaning forward like this. And I said, "Let me see your other hand." And I directed him, "Let me see your other hand." He didn't do that. And he was just, "Oh, it's not a big deal," or whatever. And he kept his hand down there. And he just glanced back. So I took my gun out and I said, "Let me see your other fucking hand. Put your hand up." Gave him commands to do that. I'm not sure how many. I think I gave a few. And I don't know why, but he quickly went like this, like pulled his hand out real fast. And I kind of like took a step back and was like, "Jesus, what are you doing?" And I directed him to put his hands on the wheel. He did. I think he had opened the door initially too. I didn't open it, but he had opened it and kind of started to step out. And I was like, "No, like, what are you doing?" So once he had his hands up there, I put my gun away, and I was telling him, put your hands on top of your head. We've been trained in the academy that, when you get someone out of the vehicle, you have them put your hands on your head. You grab the top of their hands and you have them step out and face away from you, and then you can handcuff them from there. He wasn't really complying with that, or was just, saying, oh, I got shot like this or something. So I then went to grab his hand and then help, pull him out of the vehicle, because I could see that as he was sitting like this with his hands up, he kind of was looking down at the steering wheel or looking down at the keys. And I was concerned that he was going to try and take off, drive away in the vehicle. So I kind of pulled him out. While he was doing that, he started trying to turn around. So I pushed him forward into the door frame, which is another thing we were taught to do if someone's not complying. King came around, and he, was trying again to kind of turn around on me. And I was, just trying to keep him pinned in the door, because I didn't know, typically if someone's trying to turn around and face you, they want to either, run or punch you or do something. So King came around, and we ended up getting him handcuffed at that point. And then while we were kind of struggling with him to get him handcuffed, the other two passengers stepped out of the car. So I could see that was happening. So I walked around after he was handcuffed. I walked around to the other side and told them, step up against the wall, drop the bag. We need to figure out what's going on here. And Officer King brought Floyd around and had him sit on the sidewalk. I ID'd those two. The female said something about like he'd been shot like that before. That's why he was freaking out, because I pulled the gun on him. And I said, well, he has his hand down there. If I'm telling you to see your hand, let me see your hands. Like that, you don't keep your hand hidden for any reason. So basically, I ID'd those two. Since we had 3 people and only us 2 officers, I was like, we should put him in the car. We're going to get him secured. I wanted to come back and search the car and try and figure out what was going on and why he was digging around, or if there was something he was trying to hide under the seat, and then get the other 2 people ID'd. They seemed compliant. So I was like, just, I told them stay there. So we walked Floyd across the street, and he was kind of trying to, drag his feet, or, I don't want to go in there. I'm not going in there. It's not, it's not me. And we got to the car. He was kind of pushing back when we were trying to search him, just because you have to search people before you put them in the back of your squad car. I believe when we were searching him, a park officer arrived, and I directed him. I could see that people kind of start walking, the 2 people that we hadn't identified yet. They were by the car walking back towards the car, and I said, watch the car. Don't let them go anywhere. Don't let them go back in the car, because I don't know what's in there. I believe it was at this time that King found a pipe in Floyd's pocket, and he handed it to me, and I set it up on top of the vehicle. Floyd we tried to get him to sit down in the car, and he said he was claustrophobic. Don't put me in there. Don't put me in there. We're like, dude, you need to get in the car. You got to get secured in here, and we need to figure out what's going on. So, he kept saying no, he didn't want to get in there. He was refusing. He kept pushing back up, trying to get out. We were trying to push him in. I believe that's when the other squad, I'm not even sure what their call sign was that day, with the other 2 officers arrived. And so, yeah, he said, someone's got to stay with me. And I said, he's like, I'm claustrophobic. I'm like, I'll roll the windows down. I'm going to stay in the car with you. That's fine. I'll put the air on. So then he still was refusing to get in the car. So I walked around to the other side and was going to pull, since his back was facing into this car. If this is like the door, I was going to go around and try and pull his arm through the other side of the squad, just to get him in there so we could close the doors and secure him. When I went in, I walked around again to the other side. I went to pull him through. He started really thrashing back and forth, and I think he was hitting his face on the glass that goes to the front seat. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I saw that he was bleeding from the mouth. So I went to pull him through. I pulled him in to the car, and I think he either put his feet on the frame of the door or something and pushed, and he was like kind of going. I was trying to pull him through, and then he started pushing with me, and he kind of came out the other side of the door, and was kind of fighting back, fighting with us, trying to not go back into the squad. We kept trying to, get him in there. And from there, let's see, I think we tried to push him back in again, and he still was not complying with that. We ended up going down to the ground. I think someone said, let's bring him to the ground because he's just kind of completely, we can't control him. We went down to the ground. King was next to me. Officer Chauvin was at the front end, and he was on his stomach, and we were basically just trying to restrain him. I think I said, let's use the MRT or MR. I might have said it wrong, but the maximum restraint technique, which is what you use on someone who's handcuffed and not complying, that's physically resisting you while handcuffed. It's just basically where it's like a hobble. You put a hobble on their legs and prevents them from kicking and doing that. So I was trying to get his legs into a leg cross where you cross the legs and push him up onto the butt just to keep him from kicking, because he was kicking around at that point. And then I think I had said to Tou, or maybe King had said something about getting the hobble, and I said, mine's in my bag, it's labeled. So he flipped the thing up and then given me a hobble. From there, I was going to try and put it on, but it was basically, I think we had started EMS too at that point, or I'd said, let's start an ambulance for the mouth situation. And so that was code 2. It hadn't stepped it up yet. And then we ended up not getting, I wasn't able to, or I didn't get the hobble on him. So we just kind of pinned him. I think someone had said, let's just hold him here. We got an ambulance coming. And then he was still kind of fighting and moving around. So we just kind of held him there. And then I'm not sure if it was me, but someone, said, let's step the ambulance up to code 3. I think I had said, I felt like he was on drugs or something. He was just quite based on his behavior, and so.
What did you say about rolling him over?
Yeah, I'd said, based on the drug thing, I was saying, once he stopped actively kicking us, I was like, maybe we should roll him onto his side. I said, I think this might be, an excited delirium situation, which is something we had been told about in the academy, which is where when someone is on drugs, they kind of work themselves up and they can end up having, basically having issues from that. So, so from there we had the ambulance stepped up. Once he kind of stopped fighting us, I think I had said again, I think we should roll him onto his side. And I believe Chauvin said, we have him, there's an ambulance coming, we got him, we're just going to hold here. And that's made sense to me just because I've had experiences with people who are ODing, or they'll be out 1 minute and they'll come back and really, be aggressive with you. So I was like, all right, we got an ambulance coming, code 3. We're just going to hold here until the ambulance gets here. And that seemed to make sense at the time. I could, after he stopped kind of talking and yelling or whatever, I remember being able to look through, and I could see his back right lat. He was breathing. I was watching that, making sure that I could keep an eye on that he was still breathing. So I'm like, okay, he's just passed out. He's, worked himself up, and now he's just kind of passed out. So I could see that. I think at one point, he, based just that he would stop moving. I had said something to King, like, maybe check his pulse, see if you can find a pulse on him, just because he stopped moving for a while. And then the ambulance came. Ambulance arrived. They pulled up. I think they came up and checked his pulse. And they said, they pulled the cart out, dropped the bag thing. I helped put him onto there. And then that got loaded up onto the stretcher, and then we loaded into the ambulance. I asked them, I said, do you want me to roll with you just because he's detained and just in case they needed help with anything? He said, yeah. So I went there. We basically were just going to pull down the block because there was kind of a crowd of people that were angry. So the ambulance just wanted to roll down around the block, around the corner, just out of the way. And I think at that point, point in the ambulance, I tried again to find a pulse on him. I couldn't at that point. I thought he might be still breathing. I know I was working on keeping his airway open. I asked EMS, what do you need me doing? And they said, start CPR. So I started chest compressions, and obviously the CPR, you do chest compressions and then breathing. And I was like, do you want me to do, 15 and hold the airway or try and do that? And he said, no, just keep doing chest compressions. So I continued doing chest compressions until we parked. And then the driver, who's the other EMT or whatever, he came around and started to get the Lucas machine ready, which is the CPR machine. And from there, I helped them get the Lucas machine ready, or get that applied. They were having some trouble getting it underneath. And it kept was going to clip into his skin. So I was trying to make sure that it just locked in like it's supposed to. That locked in. That started. Then I'm not sure what it's called, where they put the intubate, I think, and they started oxygen. And I was asking again, what can I do to help? And he gave me the airbag and said, every time the light lights up, just pump that, get that going. And as we were parked there, then fire arrived. They came in, and I just kind of felt like the extra non-medical guy there. So I was like, do you guys need me in here? And they're like, we're good. We got 2 fire and 2 EMS. So then I jumped out and was trying to see if I could get a ride back from my partner, but then one of the fire people on scene offered to give me a ride back to the scene where my squad was and my partner was.
So you went back to the scene?
Yep.
What happened from there?
From there, we basically talked to a sergeant was on scene. He said he was going to go down to the hospital. Chauvin directed us that we should wait on the car. The other guys, I'm not sure where Chauvin and Tou went. I think they were going to go down to the hospital as well at that point. But they were saying, you guys pull your squad over here, park behind the vehicle, wait on the vehicle, because we still hadn't searched the vehicle and we were unsure. I don't know what happened to those other 2 people that were in the car. I'm not sure where they went. So,
how long were you then at the scene?
It was a while. We were just basically waiting in the car. So waiting in the car, on the car.
So all right. At some point, were you brought down to room 100?
Yeah.
And
so
tell us
then,
about that process.
Yeah, we were waiting on the car.
What happened to the pipe?
The pipe was on top of, the pipe that I'd been given and I put up on top of the squad was sitting on the squad, and I had forgotten about it. So I drove the car from, just basically across the street. And then I don't think I even realized it was there until Sergeant Edwards came. And when Sergeant Edwards came, I could see it on top of the car, and I was like, oh, crap. That's been sitting up there this whole time, and I didn't even realize it.
Okay.
So then I got an envelope and put that in there. And then I helped cordon off the scene, and I talked to a couple other people that they said, if there's any witnesses or anyone who wants to be added, do that. And I didn't get anyone's info. And then once we got down to 100, then they said, shut your body cam off and we're going to do interviews. So I did that.
Okay. Is it okay if I just clarify something?
Yeah.
You've said a lot and I appreciate it. I just want to make sure that it's clear.
Sure.
Okay. First of all, the location of the initial call.
Yeah.
Do you remember the name of that?
Cup Foods.
Have you been there before on calls?
I don't believe so. Not that store specifically. The intersection looked familiar.
Okay.
It's hard to say. I
Sure.
mean, we go to a lot of calls.
Understood.
Cup foods.
Cup.
It's a P.
Yeah.
Not
KUP.
Cub. Yep.
Not Cub.
So you were squad, what was it?
320.
320. So what does that mean? Like what area of the 3rd precinct are you kind of responsible for?
Lake Street down to 42nd.
Lake Street
and
south to 42nd?
Yeah, and then Hiawatha west to the freeway.
Hiawatha west of the freeway. Okay. Maybe, yeah. East or west? No, it'd be west. Yeah.
West.
Okay. I got you. Okay.
Everything east of Hiawatha is 340.
And so who was your partner that night then?
King.
What's
Officer King.
Officer King. Okay. And he same amount of time on as you?
I think he finished on Friday. So he had 2 days on, or I had like one more day.
Okay. So roughly about the same.
Yeah.
All right. Is it common to partner officers right out of training together?
I don't know.
Have you seen it before?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that might be something they do, and I think they try and they said they want to put newer officers together just because.
Sure. Okay. And the commanders make those decisions. You don't.
We
make
don't.
those
Yeah, we
decisions?
just get assigned when we walk in. They say this is who you're riding with today.
Okay.
And that's very good.
So, how many times have you ridden with King?
That was the only time.
That was the first time, right? Okay. Did you know him though?
I mean, I knew him from the academy.
Okay. So this particular call, how did it come in?
Came in as a forgery in progress.
Forgery in progress. Okay. Have you handled forgery or counterfeit money calls before?
Yeah.
On training?
Not in training. On my FTO period.
And then, okay, how typically do you handle those types of calls? Just generally.
Go there, get a description of the person that handed off, as much information as you can for them, the nature of the interaction, how it went down, value stuff.
In your short time with the police department on FTO, going to calls like similar to this, has it been common that you've encountered the actual suspect at these forgeries? How has it typically gone in your experience?
Someone gave me this fake money. I realized it, and then they left, or they got into an argument with someone, and then the person left.
So is it just kind of a report call for the most part? You'll take a report, collect the evidence, and move on with life?
Yep.
So this one was different.
Yeah.
That he was there. Okay. So what was as you guys are going to this call, first of all, were you directly dispatched this call or?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So
I want to say it was a dispatch. You do so much of like dispatch and then self-assign, and
okay.
We might have self-assigned to it. I'm not.
Would this particular address be in your assigned, like your patrol district, that 320 area?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's your responsibility to take care of this call in this particular area.
This is our call.
You didn't like jump it from another?
No.
Understood.
Yeah, It was in our district.
All right. When the call came out, do you remember where you were when you?
North.
Approximate intersection?
5, 6, 7 blocks north.
Not too far.
Not too far.
Okay. Routine response?
We just rolled there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you and Officer King discuss kind of how you're going to handle this call as you're driving there? And if so, what was kind of the plan?
I think just the basic, we'll go there and see what the deal is, and if the guy's still on scene, take him into custody and figure out what we got. Kind of the standard. There's a crime committed.
Yep.
Who did it? Detain him.
How do you determine who's going to be the contact and who isn't? Which officer is going to contact and which isn't?
That was something we're talking about earlier, just that whole process, because we're not really used to that, working the contact cover. Typically, the guy who's the driver is the cover, and the guy who's the passenger is the contact, meaning they do all the interaction, they work the radio, they work the computer, they write the reports.
Okay.
But like I said, we've never rolled together. That was only the second time working actually a squad with another officer
Okay.
out of FTO.
Understood. Who was driving?
I was.
Okay. So in that scenario, Officer King would possibly, by default, be sitting in the passenger seat, be the contact officer.
Yeah.
Is it kind of fluid? I mean, is it a hard and fast rule, or do you just kind
No, I mean, it's,
okay.
you can bounce back and forth, and it's kind of, like I said, we were talking about even how to do it because we haven't really had any practice with, I think on one of the other calls, he was talking to someone and then I asked some questions and then we're like, oh, that's right. We got to try and remember to be contact cover, like remember our roles. And but
okay. Just learning it still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were trying to figure out the best way to do it. How it even works.
So when you pull up to Cup Foods, where do you park?
Right in front. We pulled up basically.
On what street?
Chicago, facing south in the northbound lane.
Okay, gotcha. Can you just you walk into the store, tell us what you're told at that point?
The guy came walking over. He had a bill in his hand. He said, he gave me a fake bill. That's the guy over there. Go get him before he drives away.
Okay, real quick statement from him. Did you look at the bill?
I didn't. No.
Did you ever collect it later or anything like that?
I think it was. I'm not sure.
But you didn't do that, and you haven't
no.
seen it?
No.
Okay. So him telling you it was counterfeit was essentially...
I think that calling in and then the fact that there was someone still on scene, we were more concerned with at least detaining that person on the suspicion of passing a counterfeit bill and then figuring out the validity of the bill.
What level of crime is passing a counterfeit bill?
I want to say that's gross misdemeanor or misdemeanor.
Okay. Is it a felony?
It is felony or a felony.
All right.
Sorry.
Was there any indication about any sort of weapon or force or anything in the call? Like, what did you know in the call?
No.
The Secret Service take counterfeit bills very serious.
Oh.
When the call comes out, like what is? Are you told anything other than just?
There wasn't any indication. I don't think of weapons as far as I could remember, or any force used.
Was there in the call any information that the suspect was still on scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
It came out as a forgery in progress, as in the person is still there.
So you were not surprised when the gentleman working there pointed out and said they were
No.
there?
I guess I was expecting them to be in the store.
Do you have any recollection approximately what time it was when you got to the store the first time? No. Some people remember those things.
I'm not one of those.
Okay. Was it light or dark outside?
It was like light still.
You could see okay?
Yeah.
You're lying okay.
Yeah.
So you approach the vehicle, and Officer King goes on the passenger side, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
I think, we just kind of crossed the street and I got in front of King and I was watching the car. And like I said, I could see some of them moving around, or they kind of saw us. And that's when I said to him, like, something's going on. They're moving around. They can see us.
All right. So as you approach the car and you see Mr. Floyd there reaching, what did that mean to you when you saw him reaching? What was the concern there?
The concern was either that he was trying to stash something or he possibly had a gun. But in my limited experience, I've been told that a lot of times people hide guns under their seats, or that's where you're going to hide stuff that you don't want on you. You're going to put it underneath the seat, in between the seat, under a floor panel or something.
Have you experienced that though on the street during FTO, recovering guns or drugs from underneath seats of cars?
Looking for them. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we haven't. I found a BB gun under in the wheel well of a vehicle. But no, we just kind of were trained that that's typically, people hide stuff in nooks and crannies under the.
So when that was happening and you're walking up and you're seeing this, what are you feeling at that point?
I'm wondering what he's doing and want to know where his other hand is going and what's in his hand, I guess, basically.
Okay.
He sees me coming, sees the police coming, and then starts reaching, it's like I said, it's either he's going to get something or he's going to put something away.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
So how come you drew your gun then?
Because I asked him to see his other hand, and he kept his hand like this.
Mm-hmm.
He had his one hand up, and then he kept his hand down here. And I said, "Let me see your other hand. Let me see your hand." And he didn't. So I don't know if he's got a gun right there and he's just waiting to go like this, or what he's doing.
What other observations of the inside of the car did you make that kind of brief moment there, if you recall?
Not much.
Not much. Just see there were other people in the car.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I didn't. I think I realized there was someone in the back seat as well, and that kind of, I didn't really like that just because I don't know who they are or what they're doing.
Could you see clearly into the back seat of the car?
No.
Okay.
It was tinted. I mean, it was a tinted window. Like I said, I was unsure
Okay.
if it was a male or female, but I found out afterwards it was female.
What was the driver, Mr. Floyd, saying in response to your commands?
He was just like, oh, that's, I'm not, whatever. I don't, he was basically not compliant is what I remember. I don't remember specifically what he was saying.
What did you want him to do with his hands?
Put his hands up where I could see him, and then, or at the very least, put him on the wheel. And I think I said, put your hands on the wheel.
Okay. Did he eventually do that?
He did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so did he try to get out of the car? I think you described that.
He initially was starting to step out of the car.
Okay. And why don't you want him to get out of the car?
Well, I don't usually, if someone's going to get out, they're going to try and run.
Okay.
Or come at me. I don't know. I want to, at the very least, he's sitting there, keep your hands where I can see him, and then me take control of the situation, take him out, rather than have him step out and face me where he can.
So did he then continue to sit in the car when you told him not to get out? Or did he get out?
No, he kind of stepped a foot out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, get back, put your foot back in the car, keep your hands where I can see him.
Did he obey those commands?
Yes.
Okay. What's the conversation then at that point?
At that point, I was basically, saying, I'm going to get you out of the car, put your hands on top of your head. I think he was saying, I got shot like this before or something, and I'm not the guy.
So you want him to get out of the car? Yeah.
Now that he's complying, I want to, step him out of the vehicle, detain him, and then go from there and figure out what he was sticking under the seat or what he had under the seat.
Okay. What about the reason why you're there, though, the counterfeit call?
Yeah.
Were you going to ask him any questions about, try to figure out what's going on with that?
I guess at that point, based on his behavior and that he wasn't complying with what I had initially asked him and was asking him to do, I remember he was looking to the right, kind of at the keys, and I didn't know if he was going to try and start the car and take off.
Okay.
So I guess my concern was all right, we're going to get him out of the car. Driver will be secured. I don't have to worry about him taking off.
Okay. And so that handcuffing process.
Yeah.
He's initially kind of complying, but then when you ask him to get out and put the handcuffs on, there's a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
What is he saying to you when you're trying to handcuff him? And what is he doing to prevent you from handcuffing him?
Well, he had his hands initially on his head, and then I asked him, what we were trained is you grab onto the hands and you step out of the car and face away from me, so they face the door frame. He wasn't really doing that. He wasn't getting out of the car, so I think I grabbed his arm and went to pull him out, and then from there, he was kind of trying to turn around to face me, and that I don't, again, why are you turning around to face me?
What did you think he was going to do?
I mean, I'm not sure if he was going to try and assault me or get away. I initially pulled up at the scene, and then he tries to get out of the car right away. So I'm thinking he might be trying to get away.
Is it possible he just wanted to talk to you? Face?
At that point, I don't think conversation was. I'm not sure.
Did you tell him he was under arrest at that point?
I don't think I did. No.
Okay. was your plan to arrest him at that point, or
Yeah,
detain, or Okay.
detain him.
Did you know? I mean, did you know that he was the one? I mean, there's 3 people in the car. That he was the one that passed the bill.
I believe they said it was the driver.
Okay, all right.
They had indicated the driver.
So you wanted to talk to him about what happened.
Yeah.
All right. So he is eventually handcuffed, brought over to the sidewalk, and sits down. Who stays with him?
King.
King. Do you know how the gentleman was identified? Were you present for that process?
No, I was talking to the other 2
Right.
people. As we had got him out of the car and handcuffed him, those 2 exited the vehicle, and I didn't want them going anywhere. And I didn't want them going back to the car, so I said, stand up against the wall,
Okay.
drop the bag, and I ID'd those 2.
Do you remember a name of either of those 2?
Shawanda Hill.
That was the woman?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember the guy. He gave me his ID. I ended up actually taking it with me accidentally.
Yeah.
So, and then just based on the fact that we had 2 people there and Floyd handcuffed, I wanted to get him secured so we could look in the vehicle.
Over with Officer King, Floyd sitting on the pavement. How is he behaving at that point?
I mean, he was sitting on the side, and I think he was talking with King. King was trying to ID him. He said, I'm not that type of guy, or something like that. To that effect.
Was he trying to get up and like leave or get
I
up?
don't believe so.
He was complying with sit on
the
the sit command. Okay. So, I mean, I guess I'm just trying to understand, like, if he's compliant at the corner there, and you've got 2 people that you're identifying, and Officer King is clearly got a guy handcuffed sitting. What was the purpose for then needing to put him in the squad car? Couldn't your kind of initial investigation be done like right there?
It could, but he was just kind of acting erratically.
Like how so?
Just the way he was yelling, and he was worked up, and I guess we would have to have someone sit with him because I don't know if he was going to try and get up and move around again. So my thinking is that I've got 2 people here. I've got a car I need to search. Let's get him secured, at least in our car, and then we can get a hard ID on him with the computer and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then we can go from there moving forward.
Just trying to understand the thought process.
Yeah,
here.
I mean
what I'm saying?
that was the basic. This he seemed like he appeared that he was on drugs, something just based on his agitation level, and he was saying like everything, his arms hurt or something.
Did you ask him if he was on?
I asked him.
What
Yeah.
did he say?
I don't think he said anything.
What about the other 2 people? Did they make any comments or statements to you about drug use or anything like that?
I don't think so.
No. Did you ask either of them? I
think I might have asked them, is he on something?
Okay.
Yeah, and then the one female said, he's crazy, or he got shot like that before too. That's why he's freaking out or something.
Okay.
Because that's what she said. I guess for something with a guy with a gun at the car. She said
Would you agree with her assessment that George was freaking out?
Yeah.
So how are you trained to handle a person who's maybe agitated, under the influence, in some sort of crisis like that? How have you been trained to kind of deal with that?
Talk to them, I guess, more.
Did that happen, in your opinion?
I would say, I mean, we were trying to explain to him what was going on, that this is where we're at. This is what happened. You're being detained for this for right now.
Was he hearing any of that you were saying to him?
I mean, he was pretty erratic at that point.
What was his main, when you walk him to the squad car and, you're trying to get him to sit down, I mean, what is he indicating to you what his main concern is?
He said, I'm not the guy.
Okay.
I think that's what he kept saying. I'm not the guy. I'm not that kind of guy.
Was he asking to just talk to you guys right then and there?
I think he was, let me explain, or he might have said that.
Okay. Was he given an opportunity just to kind of turn around, keep him handcuffed, and just let him explain what he wants to explain?
I think, again, the situation that I was kind of explained earlier, the fact that there might have been a weapon in the car, I think my priority was just securing him.
Okay.
That's kind of where my...
All right. So did you find a weapon on him?
Not when we were searching him.
Okay. And there was a park police officer, you said, that arrived, and he was watching the other two in the car?
He arrived as we were...
or you asked him to do that, I should say? Okay. Do you know if he did that?
Yeah, I think he walked over there and then just kind of...
So the car's empty, and there's two people across the street, and you and your partner have a handcuffed man at your squad car.
Mm-hmm.
Is the concern still about a weapon, possibly?
No.
A weapon on his person or in the vehicle?
Both.
Okay.
Well, the weapon in the vehicle is still potentially, there's a concern for a weapon there.
Okay.
We had searched, we were searching him. We didn't find a weapon, but there still could be a weapon in the car.
Could be.
So,
All right. Did you search the car at all?
We didn't.
Okay. How would you normally treat something like that? I mean,
Why didn't you search the car?
Yeah.
We were struggling with restraining Mr. Floyd.
Initially, but then he's on the curb sitting against the wall, right?
Next to the vehicle.
After you take him out of his vehicle, get him handcuffed, he's now sitting with Officer
Because
King.
I didn't want to search a vehicle with two other people that I don't know, and then have my partner watch the handcuff.
Understood. Okay.
That's putting me at risk and King at risk.
Did you ask for backup at all?
I think I had said when we're getting Mr. Floyd out of the car, I said we're pulling one out, which kind of is a signal to we could use another car here.
Okay. And then that's why the park
responded.
maybe? Okay.
Yeah.
Does that typical for park police to come
Yeah.
help you guys if you need it?
Yep.
Okay. What kind of pipe did you find?
A glass little pipe, like about that big, maybe as big as my ring finger.
Okay.
Or whatever.
What did that indicate to you when you saw it?
There wasn't anything in it.
Okay.
In the end, it had like a cone shape on the end.
Like what would that pipe be used for in your
Could have been
experience?
marijuana. Could have been other drugs other than that.
Okay. And Officer King is the one that found that?
I believe so. Yeah.
Do you remember where he found that on him?
I just remember him handing it to me, and then I set it up on top of the squad car.
So as you're at the squad car, which side of Mr. Floyd are you on?
Left side.
Left side, and Officer King, I assume, is on the other? Okay. So it would have been somewhere on his right side that pipe came from?
Yeah.
Are you also searching on the left side?
Yeah.
So you're both searching at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole issue of getting him into the squad car, I think the word you used was need. We needed to get him into the squad car. Just explain to us kind of your thought process about why you felt it was necessary to put him in the squad car at that point.
Again, just to have him secured so I could go back and get an ID on those people, get a hard ID on him.
Mm-hmm.
Having your squad there is one of the easiest ways to identify people because you have your computer. You can look people's pictures up. You can look up TVS.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't give me an ID. She just gave me a name. So we're going to go back to the squad anyways.
Okay. So that would be the most convenient way an efficient way to identify him. Okay. But obviously he didn't want to get in that car.
Yeah.
So is there did you ever think about maybe a different way to handle this other than just putting him in the car? Did you, Officer King, discuss that at the scene about, hey, maybe we should just sit him on the curb again?
No.
Okay. So two other officers from the Minneapolis Police Department arrive.
Mm-hmm.
Who are they?
Officer Chauvin and Tou Thao.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier that you worked with Officer Chauvin before.
Mm-hmm.
What about Officer Tou? Have you had any experience with him?
Not a whole lot. He worked in the precinct too, but I didn't really see him on that many calls.
Are Chauvin and, just in the limited experience you had, are Chauvin and Tou typically partners that you know of?
No. I mean,
you don't know, or just?
I don't think I've seen them roll together typically. I guess I don't even know what Chauvin's typical district is.
Okay.
Just because he was always training, so he was moving around.
So as you're trying to get Mr. Floyd in the car, you mentioned that you're pulling from the other side. Is somebody with you at that time helping you do that?
I think that's when Officer Chauvin came around because they arrived, and he was refusing to get in that side. So I went around and was going to grab his arm to help pull him through the squad to get him in so we could secure him.
Just describe Mr. Floyd to me. What was he wearing, for example?
He had like sweatpants on with the gym shorts underneath, and then I believe it was a black or gray tank top.
Okay.
He had kind of white spots on either side of his mouth. He was yelling, kind of just agitated. He said, like his arms and everything, he was very sensitive to stuff, which is common with people, at least in the limited experience I have with drug use and people that are coming off drugs or frequent drug users are very hypersensitive to stuff. So,
how about physically? What did he look like?
He's almost as tall as me, muscular.
How tall are you?
I'm 6'7".
6'7". About the same height as you?
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. So, as you and Officer Chauvin are trying to pull him into the squad car, what is Floyd yelling, I suppose, at that point, saying?
He had said that he was claustrophobic, and I had said, I'll stay with you. When we were on the other side of the car, I said, I'll stay with you. I'll put the windows down. I'll put the air on. He was like, I think he kind of agreed to that, but then went back again. Well, I don't want to get in, and was just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So back on the other side, he was just saying no. And then kind of started, once I pulled him over the lip of the door, he kind of started to thrash around. And
so he was in the back seat, but not in enough that you could
close the door.
Okay. Yeah. So then the decision was made to just pull him all the way through. Is that?
I was going to go around. No, he was basically sitting. He wasn't even in the squad. He was sitting on the edge on the other side.
On the driver's side?
Yeah.
Okay.
And refusing to go in. And then I went around the other side and was just going to pull him in.
Okay. So how did he end up on the ground on the passenger side?
On the other side, once I pulled him in and he got into the seat, he kind of started thrashing around, and I think he banged his head multiple times on the glass. And then he kind of pushed, he used his feet, I believe, to push, because I just remember like he came out like.
So he pushed himself out of the car.
Yeah.
Versus you guys pulling him out of the car? Is that?
Yeah, because the goal was to keep him in the car.
Okay.
We didn't want him coming out again. We were going to pull him through and then just secure him.
Okay. So then who made the decision to put him on the ground like that and just leave him there?
Someone had said something, let's just bring him to the ground, because he was continuing to fight.
Okay. When he goes on the ground, does anything change? Like, does his compliance level change at any point?
No, he started, well, what do you mean by that?
So he obviously didn't want to get in the car, and he's fighting you to get in the car. Once he's on the ground, is he continuing to fight?
Yeah, he was still like kicking and kicking at me, and then I think I had said, let's get the hobble to secure his legs, because I was on holding his legs.
Who got the hobble?
I think it was Tao or
okay. So
what's
you're
his name again? Tao.
Officer Tou.
Tao, yeah.
So you're holding his
legs.
George's legs.
Yes.
And who's next to you?
Officer King.
And what is he doing?
He was, I guess, holding his arms. I don't know, or his hand, or maybe in a cradle.
Because he's handcuffed.
Yeah.
Okay. And then who's next?
Officer Chauvin.
All right. And what are you seeing Officer Chauvin doing from where you're at?
He was just pinning him down.
Pinning him how?
He had his knee up around, the shoulders and neck area.
Okay. Is that a technique that you've seen before?
No.
Have you been trained in that at all?
No.
To put your knee on somebody's back or neck area?
On the back, yeah.
On the back? Yeah. Tell us about that.
Just when you're handcuffing and restraining someone, that you can run your, I want me to sit and show you, but you can run your knee up across their back, their shoulder blade, in between the shoulder blades. or yeah, across, across this way, around the shoulders.
Okay, so is handcuffing, handcuffing as a technique something that you learned at the academy?
Mhm.
Okay, and are there different ways you can handcuff somebody?
Mhm.
What just express what you can? I'll stop it right there.
Standing, kneeling, prone.
Okay, so you obviously handcuffed this guy, Mr. Floyd, while he was standing.
Mhm.
He's prone
Mhm.
at this point. So would that knee technique or would that really apply at this point since he's already handcuffed?
I guess the plan for there was basically just to restrain him so he couldn't move and hurt himself anymore. Because, like I said, he started banging his head on the glass when we got in the car,
Bleeding,
and he started bleeding. So he was just kind of, we're like, I don't know if he's gonna. So the plan was just to get him so he couldn't move anymore or hurt himself or hurt us.
So who made the decision to start EMS?
I think I had said that initially. I said he's bleeding from the mouth. We should start an ambulance.
Okay, for the bleeding from the mouth?
Yeah.
Okay. And as you're waiting for paramedics to come, I mean, is that the whole goal with him on the ground, just to wait for paramedics?
Yeah, we'll just wait and they'll probably, would do a hold on him or something since he's just kind of out of control.
So was there more to calling the paramedics than just checking his mouth?
Initially, I think that's what I said we should do it for. But then someone else, I'm not sure, I don't remember, said, let's just step it up to code 3. I think after.
But what can the paramedics do to help you guys with a kind of an uncontrolled, non-compliant person? Like what are they going to be able to do by getting their code 3 if he has a mouth injury, but he's also non-compliant?
Well, I think that I had mentioned that, this could be possibly excited delirium or something.
Okay, so
that was the other thing for stepping it up because he might be in medical distress.
And you articulated that?
Yeah.
Okay, and how was that suggestion received by your partners?
They said just this is fine.
Who said that? Yeah.
Chauvin said we're just going to hold him here until EMS arrives.
So,
and I had suggested, with excited delirium, maybe we should roll him on his side just to, if he's like, I think it's something I had previously learned at a previous job where you roll him on the side to a recovery position or something like that. So,
okay. What previous job did that?
I think it was JEC.
Did you work at a juvenile detention center at Hennepin County?
Mm-hmm.
How long did you work there?
About a year and a half.
Was that post-college or?
Post-college, yeah.
Okay. So have you experienced in the field excited delirium or suspected excited delirium?
No, not excited delirium necessarily,
okay.
But just an incident where someone was very excited and we ended up.
Do you have a recollection in your academy days or even prior to that learning about excited delirium?
I think there was a class on it.
Okay. Did they, I mean, you obviously bring it up, so it's clearly it's something you're thinking about. What prevented you from just kind of taking charge of that and making the call?
I was basically going off Officer Chauvin's experience and what he was saying, like, we're going to hold here until EMS arrives.
Is he a supervisor?
He's not.
Okay. Was he in any sort of supervisory capacity that night? Like
No.
an acting supervisor or something like that?
No.
He just has more years on that you.
He's 20 years on. So I mean, basically through the whole FTO process, you trust and go to your senior officers for experience and
okay.
help on calls and what's the best thing to do in this situation. They give you direction and
okay.
kind of you follow their lead on what you think is.
But it seems like your gut reaction was something's not right here and we need to rethink how we are restraining Mr. Floyd. Is that accurate? That's what it seems like you're saying.
Yeah, I would say I felt like it maybe could have been handled differently or we should be reassessing what we're doing, I think is what I was kind of coming to.
Okay. Is Mr. Floyd's disposition changing over time as you're holding him there?
Yeah.
How so?
He was actively fighting us initially, and then he just kind of was talking for a while, and he saying stuff that he couldn't breathe and that his back hurt, and
Did you hear him say that? I can't breathe.
Yep.
Okay. Did you hear him say that his neck hurt?
I don't specifically remember
No?
that, but
Okay. Could you see where Officer Chauvin's knee was placed?
yes.
Where?
Like I said, it was along the back or the neck area, the bottom of the base of the neck.
Okay. So it was on the upper back at the base of the neck from your perspective?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And because Officer Chauvin said, no, we'll leave him here, that's what happened.
Is that what he said? We'll leave him here?
Or we'll leave him in this position, or?
He had said, we have an ambulance coming. Let's just hold here. You have the ambulance coming.
Okay. Were you getting a sense that Mr. Floyd was having a medical emergency? I mean, obviously hindsight, but at the time.
I felt maybe that something was going on.
Okay. But you thought he was passing out?
Yeah.
Okay. What were you feeling at that point?
I was just monitoring and making sure that he was still breathing, and that kind of just, I was, like I said, intently looking and making sure that he was still breathing.
And there's a crowd gathering, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear what they're yelling and saying to you guys? Like what are they saying?
Someone was saying, "Get off him!" He's handcuffed. He's not fighting you guys.
Mm-hmm. Is that all true?
What is? Wait a minute.
What they're saying? He's handcuffed. He's not fighting you.
Oh, he was fighting him.
Yeah, he
well,
was.
At that moment, though, when they're saying that, was he?
They've been saying
I know he
a lot of
was.
stuff. You're talking different timelines.
Okay.
When
Did you hear anybody in the crowd express to you that he's not breathing? I think somebody says unresponsive, I think is the word.
I think, yeah. I don't specifically remember saying someone saying he's not breathing.
Okay. So when the paramedics get there, describe Mr. Floyd's actions at that point.
He was basically, non-responsive, and I think the EMS came over and attempted to check for a pulse, and I think I had said, he's not responsive right now. I had said something basically.
Did you think he was maybe dead at that point, or no?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think so.
So what happens then when the paramedics get here? Are you guys still holding them down, or at some point do you let go?
Then I'd let go once paramedics were there.
Okay.
And then they checked, and then they got the cart out.
Okay. How was he put on the cart?
We rolled him over under the back.
What observations did you make of him when he was rolled over, if any?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Okay. Did you help put him on the stretcher? Yeah. Okay. And then you go into the ambulance with him.
Yep.
What are you observing of him as he's in the ambulance?
Non-responsive again, and I think I took a pulse on him. I couldn't find one. The EMS guy said, start CPR.
Start doing compressions.
Chest compressions.
And you did that?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you done chest compressions before?
On a person?
Yeah. That was your first time?
Yeah.
Have you been trained to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you receive that training?
The academy.
Okay. Do you have a certain certification, like first responder, EMT, anything like that?
We're CPR certified, and
perfect. Okay. So you have that basic CPR certification. All right. Did the paramedics ask you to tell them kind of what happened?
I believe so.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, was your body camera on this whole time?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Did you give them kind of a rundown of what occurred? Okay. After the firefighters get on the rig and you kind of get off the rig, where do you go?
Well, I wasn't 100% sure where we are, so I went and
Yeah.
looked, and
Okay.
then radioed. I was going to see if my partner could come down and pick me up because they were going to work on him.
Do you remember where you were
I
at the
don't.
intersection? Okay. Did your partner come get you, or what happened?
I ended up getting a ride with the fire department. I was waiting with them, and they said that he's going to go down to the hospital. I went and said, "Do you guys want me to ride with you?"
Mhm.
And they said no. So then whoever's driving the fire truck said, "We're going to be going back there. We can give you a ride."
Okay. Did you have a discussion with the firefighters on the fire truck about what happened?
I think gave them a rundown too of what happened.
In as much detail as you did today, or was it just kind of a?
No, it was just
Okay.
we went to this.
Yeah.
We were fighting. Got him out of the car. Went here. You didn't want to get in.
Did at some point did you deactivate your body camera
When we were going back.
on the fire?
Yep.
Okay. And then did you reactivate it? You talked about talking to the sergeant.
Yeah. So I guess we went back and the other people were gone, and so there was nothing going on there.
So who was the sergeant that you first talked to? Kluger?
I think so.
Okay. Have you ever worked with him before? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a midwife sergeant.
All right. Who all was there talking to Sergeant Kluger? Was it just you, or was
No,
everybody?
I think it was me and King and Chauvin and Tou probably as well.
Okay. And so, what did Sergeant Kluger want to know?
Just what happened and what was going on.
And did you tell him what happened? Did anybody else?
I think King did as well.
Okay.
Gave him kind of a rundown.
Did you tell anybody about what you observed on the ambulance? About his condition or how it appeared?
I don't think I did at that point. He said he was going to be driving down to the hospital
Okay.
just to check.
Okay.
Kluger said that he goes, "I'm going down there right now." So it's like,
Okay. Did you think he was maybe dead?
I was concerned about it at that point when we got into the ambulance.
Did you tell the sergeant that?
I didn't.
Okay. And then after the sergeant leaves, then what's discussed amongst the four of you?
I think it was just what we're going to do. We need to sit on the car, and I think Chauvin said he was going to go down to the hospital as well.
Okay.
And then me and King were just going to sit and wait on the car from there until we, knew what was going on.
Okay. Do you know whose car that was?
It was our car.
Oh, you're talking about sitting on your squad car.
Oh yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Or
Well, there was the car that we had pulled them out of.
yeah, that car.
That car, yeah.
Whose car is that?
I don't know.
Okay. Didn't get to that.
No.
Did you ever run the plate as you're sitting there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And then who was it that suggested that you try to find witnesses?
I think either Kluger and maybe Sergeant Edwards said that.
Witnesses to what though? To the counterfeit thing, or the incident with Mr.
I think
Floyd,
the
or
incident
both?
with Mr. Floyd.
Okay.
They were saying just see if you can get people's names that were here.
Okay. And then Sergeant Edwards, who is he?
Sergeant.
Is it like
Dog watch
third
sergeant.
precinct?
Yeah, third
Okay.
precinct dog watch sergeant.
So he came then to the scene,
Mhm.
and what did he instruct you guys to do?
He said start cordoning the area off.
Did you tell Sergeant Edwards what had happened? Did he ask like what happened?
I think he asked for just maybe a quick rundown and
Okay.
same kind of thing.
All right. Okay. Do you remember the name of who escorted you down to room 100?
It was a second precinct sergeant.
Okay.
He was very nice. I don't remember his name.
All right. Now, during all this time, you've had your body cameras on.
Mhm.
All right. Did you and Officer King ever discuss kind of what happened off body camera while you're waiting around?
I think we had just said, I was like, I think I had said, I hope he's okay. And there wasn't really much of a conversation though.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. And the sergeant driving you down to City Hall, he didn't ask you any questions about what happened?
No.
Did you give a statement to anybody at the police department that night?
No, not. There was an attorney there.
Okay, yeah. You talked to an attorney.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I gave it a
I mean,
statement.
anybody from the Minneapolis Police Department?
No,
Any administrator, internal affairs,
no.
detective?
There was Sergeant or Lieutenant Zimmerman showed up to the scene, and he kind of same thing, wanted to know what was going on. And I think I gave him, and there was another guy, I don't remember his name.
Who's Lieutenant Zimmerman?
He's an investigator.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is he in a uniform, or
He was in, well, they always wear
Yeah.
just their little suits and long coats.
is he homicide?
Yeah.
Lieutenant? Okay. What was the purpose of I mean, like, what was the interaction with him?
Just said what happened.
Just told him kind of what
Yeah.
happened? Okay. All right. So watching the body camera video prior to today, that happened in your squad car?
Yeah, I just watched through it one more time, or for the first time, just to kind of go over everything.
Okay. And as far as you know, at that time, that was within your policy to do that? Like, you could watch those videos like that?
Yeah, as far as I know. I mean,
to help you, like, write reports and things?
Yeah.
Or what?
I mean,
Okay.
you can watch body cam, your
Okay.
own video whenever you want. So,
Yeah. How do you physically do that? Because the
Just
camera's
on your
just,
phones.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
City issue phone?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Was Officer King present with you when did you guys watch it together?
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Is it okay if I ask a
Yeah.
few questions?
Yeah.
Did you were one of the officers that walked into Cup Foods for the counterfeit? Did you?
Answer yes or no. So they-
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
Very good. When you walked in, did the employee explain to you why they believed the money was counterfeit?
No.
Okay. And as far as you know, you didn't take custody of that counterfeit money. And I know I'm going to jump around a little bit because Brent's asked you
Yeah.
a lot of very detailed questions. Have you ever had, in your experience as an officer, somebody resist arrest?
Briefly, yeah,
Okay.
I would say not to that level.
So would it be fair to say, well, I guess I should ask this. When you were in the academy, did they walk you through if someone were to resist arrest? And what was the general training for that?
Gain control of the person and detain them.
Okay.
I mean, that's kind of a generalized question of how you resist, but I mean.
Right. Are you taught to I should ask this. Are you taught to take somebody down to the ground in a prone position on their stomach?
Yeah.
Okay. You've been taught that when they're handcuffed.
I mean, it depends on the situation.
Okay. And then the restraint hold, I know that you talked about where Chauvin was. Where were you while
On his legs.
holding his legs
Yeah.
down? Okay. The entire time?
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about when we started kind of what's on your duty belt.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to describe, I know you have handcuffs and you have a handgun. Do you have any other tools on your belt?
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain those to me? And then as I'm just going to have to ask you to answer
Yes.
yes or no,
Yes.
so we don't just get affirmative pluses on a transcript. Can you describe your duty belt to me?
My specific layout, or
Yes, please.
sure. So I have mace on the front center, going to the right around towards my right side is handcuffs. My duty weapon behind that is another set of handcuffs. Starting from the left center is it's my magazine pouch, my 2 magazines, my taser, my radio, and my flashlight.
Okay. And are you taser trained?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
When Mr. Floyd was removed from his vehicle, who was present when he came out of the vehicle?
Myself and Officer King,
And who placed handcuffs on him?
both of us.
Okay. And what was located during the search of, or was there anything located during the search of Mr. Floyd?
There was the pipe that Officer King had found that was back at the squad, though, our squad.
Right. Was there anything else as far as you know?
No.
ID, wallet, additional money?
No.
Not that you're aware of.
Not that I'm aware of, yeah.
Did you ever check for a pulse yourself on Mr. Floyd?
I think I might have on his leg, but then I think I'd said maybe to King at that point, see if you can find something up there, just double check.
I know that you mentioned your previous job. What did you do before becoming a police officer?
Which, before JDC?
Yep.
Before that, I worked at a residential treatment facility for Ramsey County for at-risk youth. It was Boys Totem Town.
Okay. And so when we talk about describing, because you mentioned a few times that you felt he may have been under the influence,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do
you have experience in recognizing those signs?
Yes. Yeah.
So could you describe, I guess I should say in more specific detail, what indicated to you that Mr. Floyd may have been under the influence?
His body language, the way he moved, his head and his neck, it was just kind of the restless and constant movement is a sign that I recognize from drug use, that there's always something moving. That, like I had said, the hypersensitivity, when I just grabbed his arm, he was like, the very sensitive to things is, as far as I've felt, a very common thing for people that are coming down off drugs or on drugs, that their senses are very, sensitive.
Okay.
And then the dry mouth, he had very dry mouth, and kind of accumulated spit on either side of his mouth is another common thing for drug use.
Okay. When was he unhandcuffed? Did you ever
In the ambulance.
Okay, and when did that occur?
That was, I think, as soon as he got loaded into the ambulance, and the EMS guy, checked for pulse and figured out what, I said, then we're taking, he took the cuffs off.
He took the cuffs off and handed them back to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you talk to, I know Brent asked you about viewing the video and talking to Officer King generally. Have you talked to any of the other officers involved?
No.
About this?
No.
The night that this incident happened, you were brought downtown. Your clothing was collected by us. Were you offered blood?
Yeah.
And
I think they said it's a voluntary to go do blood work, and just with the COVID-19 thing, I didn't really want to go down to the hospital.
Okay, so that would be my follow-up. Was there a reason for declining?
Basically that. I try and avoid the hospital when I can, and with everything that's going on now.
What are your general thoughts about this?
That's weird.
I mean, about what?
About all of it. There's a lot going on. I mean, do you think this was appropriate?
He wouldn't have done it if he didn't think it was appropriate. As far as what he did, I think we're not going to answer that unless you want
to. Just so it's clear, you said she asked you if you'd talked to any of the other officers since then. Before you went to room 100, but after you've been on the ambulance, there's kind of this time period where you're just kind of at the scene. Did you have any conversation with Officer Chauvin at that point? Did you call, give you an update about status of the guy at the hospital, or did you ask him a question or anything like that?
No, I don't have his number, so there was no phone call.
Like the work phone to work phone? You didn't call him?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't have his work number.
You didn't have that in your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of and either this was either at the academy or FTO or a combination of the two, since that's kind of been your experience so far. What's kind of the understanding or practice when interacting as a rookie officer with a senior officer? And I'm not talking about a supervisor, but just a senior patrol officer. I mean, the reason I'm asking, I noticed you called him sir, I think, on the video. How come?
That's just kind of the expectation for a new officer to call any senior officer sir, and that's just what's expected. That's
what you're taught and trained to do?
At
what point do you stop doing that, I guess?
After you have maybe more than a year on.
Yeah. Okay. Did you go through the formal 40-hour CIT class at the academy?
There was a lot of training, and I would have to check.
That one, I mean, that's pretty memorable training because we usually bring in actors and you run through scenarios and things like that. Did you do that?
I remember there was one where there was a scenario. Yeah, the actors came in.
Was that just like a 1-day deal or was it?
I don't know if it was 40 hours.
Okay. I think there's the minimum 8-hour standard.
Yeah, that it could have been where they had actors come in and try and
you went
talk
through
with them,
that minimum one. Okay.
Yeah.
What other classes in de-escalation have you had? I know I
Yeah.
asked you this before, but I want to make sure I understand.
Scenarios.
Yeah.
Was one of the bigger ones where we would crisis intervention in scenarios.
Speakers come in and talk to you about.
No, where you
things
have
like-
a scenario that someone is in
Mhm.
crisis and you talk them through the situation.
Okay. Okay. Did you have like a class on recognize, like some sort of professional would come in and tell you what to recognize signs of people in crisis or under the influence or
I'm sure.
mental illness? Okay. Cover a lot of ground at the academy.
Yeah.
All right.
How did you first learn of Mr. Floyd's death?
I think it was down at 108. I mean, honestly, it was kind of a blur. You guys are asking like really specific questions about.
Mhm.
I
If you don't remember, you don't remember.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't
There's
specifically.
nothing wrong with that.
I don't specifically remember when.
Do you believe you contributed to Mr. Floyd's death?
That's I object to that, and you're not going to answer that.
Do you believe Chauvin contributed to his
Same
death?
objection. We're not answering that.
Any other? Is there anything else you think that we should know that we haven't asked you?
And if there is, I couldn't think of it.
I don't think so.
If you do,
Sure.
please let us know. I will let you guys work this way, but do you have anything else, Brent, before I should have asked? I'm sorry. Do you
No,
have-
that's okay. I'm just, I want to make sure that I understand everything here. So when it comes to offering opinions about things, we're not going to go there, sounds like. About
Well,
the-
yes, because it's a criminal investigation. Did he commit a crime? That's why we're here, not
Sure.
opinions about him, what his thought process is.
Mhm.
I mean, you can sit back and say, yeah, maybe I did something wrong 20 days ago or something, but yeah, I don't think that's a fair question.
Okay,
He-
understood.
So I have
Go
lots
ahead.
of questions,
we're not
but
gonna
as we previously discussed,
Mhm.
not going to answer any questions. And if I was to ask questions, the interview today could have been terminated, or I could have been asked to leave. Would that be a fair statement of what we
What was
discussed?
that?
If I was to ask questions, you may have terminated the
Okay.
interview or asked me to leave at some point.
I don't care if you stayed there. I just would.
Okay.
We
Okay.
agreed to be interviewed by the BCA.
Not FBI.
Well, and the reason it wasn't the FBI is because your investigation is substantially different than their investigation. Their investigation deals with the facts, and you're dealing with civil rights and all that stuff, and we're not prepared for that.
Okay, understood.
But however, if you do have some questions, Mr. Paulson can send them to me, or you can send them to me.
All right.
And I can look at them, and if I feel they're fair, we'll answer them.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Is there anything else you think we should know that we haven't asked you?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
Mr. Grazer, anything you think we should get on the record that we haven't?
Well, we've seen the video.
And by the video, you mean the public video or the body worn camera?
The one we just saw,
Uh-huh.
the body camera video. I guess it speaks for itself. I mean, he's the one that was trying to interject his ability to roll him over or things of that nature. I think he might be suffering from something, and you got a 20-year veteran, and he's a 4 or 5 day veteran, no matter what. and he has to call the guy, sir. Is this recorded?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I better shut. Anyway, I can't, you know, I mean, I have a hard time with the police department putting two guys 4 or 5 days experience together. We're not putting them with a veteran cop and a rookie cop for at least long enough to be very experienced. You know, it'd be like a lawyer trying his first case without any help from any of the other lawyers that have tried cases. Every incident's different. So, and he, you know, he's got to work hard to become a cop. Was Totem Town fellow. He went through all the training. Worked at your juvenile center, which I'm sure is not a fun job. And he got his dream job as a police.
Tried to have fun with it and, you know,
Yeah,
worked as
that's
well as
hard.
I can with the guy.
It's a hard job working with juveniles.
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
that?
Sure.
I mean, do you feel that you were adequately trained at the Minneapolis Police Department?
I don't think that's a fair question. I can give those opinions, but he
Well, he's experienced, you know.
I know he has, but
That's why I'm wondering.
that's not for this. That's
Okay.
not for this litigation.
All I can do is ask. You don't have to
That's true.
answer.
I mean, you want to talk about, is it fair to fire him immediately like that without, I think. I didn't see Chauvin get fired. Did he get fired already? Yeah, he did.
I have no,
But he's got the appeal.
Okay.
Where my client is fired. He doesn't have a job.
being on probation.
He's not on probation.
No, I mean, he's a probationary officer at the time.
Yeah.
Correct. Under a year. Okay.
All right.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Oh,
Time is 14:50.
next time have a bigger room.